everyone, and we're live. You're tuning into the Cosmic Children podcast. I'm your host, Kevin, and today I have an interesting and fascinating individual in the studio with me. I was browsing Instagram like anybody, and through the algorithm gods, his profile popped up, and I find what you do in particular to be utterly fascinating. So, Hafeez, could you please introduce yourself to those who might not know who you are? And I'm curious to know how you would describe what you do.
Hi. Okay, my name is Hafeez. Thank you for the introduction. It's really hard to really put into boxes in what I do, but let me just sort of like summarize it for you.
Yeah.
I believe in bringing heaven on earth, and I use this male body that I'm living in to share my experiences that I've gathered from epiphanies, sort of like awakened messages, visions, imaginations, dreams.
Yep.
And then I put the practice in my body, in myself, and I share. I try with the best of my abilities to share it compassionately to others.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yep.
And this go in line with more towards human movement, which is encouraging people or inspire people to improve their body language, posture, and biomechanics.
Yep.
And basically in fitness terms, and also allow them to celebrate life by dancing.
Yeah.
And also get them to be entertained by me dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I do. My main purpose is to just bring heaven on earth with this male body that I live in. Yeah.
Very, very fascinating. So, while I was doing my research on you, this idea of masculinity keeps popping up through the various facets of what you do. So to kickstart this conversation, I'm curious to know, what is your definition of masculinity?
It's so hard, to point fingers at the meaning of this, and to be honest with you, I'm still discovering.
Where are you at right now?
I'm at service, the idea of service, because I feel I don't know how to put in sentence about masculinity, but I could possibly share with you what I think about masculine.
Is there a difference?
I don't know. Masculinity sounds like more towards gender norms, whereas masculine is more character traits, energy.
Interesting. Yeah.
Behaviors. So I would I could share with you.
Let's go with that. Yeah.
Masculine.
Yeah.
So I feel there's always energy around us, in us and in the space. So it is the act of putting this energy and direct it towards manifesting something. Yep. It can be a dream. It can be manifesting, having a family, attaining happiness and wealth. So it's the act of directing this energy that is masculine. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah.
And I find it interesting that you mentioned service. What do you mean by service? Is it the act of helping someone else? Is it the act of providing? Yeah. What does service mean in your context?
It's attending to someone's needs. Helping someone, I would say. Yeah. Service doesn't have to be to a service to others. It could be service to self, because I believe both sort of like go towards the same light. Service to self and service to others is the same thing.
Yep.
Because if you put service to self, you are empowered, and then you are able to give service to others, and vice versa as well.
Yeah.
However, if things got imbalanced along the way, that's where it gets complicated. That's where unhealthy toxicity comes. Yeah.
So even the notion of service to others, it could be unbalanced.
Yes.
Could you help me understand, what do you mean when you say it being unbalanced? What does that look like?
Well, if we provide too much service to others and we forgot about ourselves, You know, we become the Mr. Nice Guy.
Yep.
We become the yes man, and
Yep.
we forgot about ourselves, and then it will sort of like allow these shadow qualities in us to emerge. You know, like we tend to complain too much.
Yep.
We become keyboard warriors. I don't know. We will be resentful. You know, everywhere we go is so dark.
Yep.
You know, even though we fall back to the fact that it's okay. I'm always in service to others.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we forgot about ourselves. Yeah, that's to me is imbalance.
Yep.
And also if I'm, for example, if I provide too much service to myself, I become too narcissistic as well. You know. And I become the Mr. Know-it-all, or you know what I mean. So it's all about finding balance, I would say. Yeah.
Do you think that these this sense of balance, is it conscious or is it unconscious? Because you mentioned something about the shadow, and it depends on how you want to look at the shadow. If you look at it through Jungian terms, or you look at it through another type of lens, it is usually unconscious. You're not consciously thinking, hey, today I want to do X amount of actions in service of me, X amount of actions in service of others. It's usually not as clean cut like that. It's usually more at the back of your head. You're not even thinking about it.
Yeah. I think it goes back to your, I don't know, it goes back to your intentions. What is your purpose, or what runs in your head the first thing you wake up in the morning? I think
interesting.
Yeah, that helped me actually.
Yep.
Because just to share with you, the first thing when I wake up in the morning, I'm always excited what my body can do.
Wow.
Yeah, that's just me. That's how passionate I am about movement. And then with that, if I get to do a certain thing, I want to share to other people.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel inspired. I feel more. I feel energized.
Yeah.
So if I keep focusing on what I want to teach to my clients, to my students, for some reason the energy will die down along the way, and I will get jaded.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but if I just focus on this tiny little impetus that drives me on a daily basis, which is the first thing I wake up in the morning. It does help me, be it unconsciously, subconsciously, or consciously. You know, do this act of service without calculating how much shadow is gonna emerge, or how much good deeds have you done, stuff like that. Yeah.
You're the best of us, because I wake up and I want to throw my alarm clock out the window. So wow. Okay. So what I am curious to know, thank you for sharing. What I'm curious to know is, were you always like this, or did it take some time for you to figure things out and go through the motion of knowing yourself and learning what you like, what you don't like, to arrive at this particular point?
Yeah, absolutely, man. It took me a while. You know, like everybody else, we grew up, we went through a certain bad habits, you know. I used to party a lot, drinking, a lot of bad sexual habits, you know, stuff like that. And the body just doesn't lie to you.
What does that mean?
Because again, it goes back to my passion, which is human movement, dancing or fitness. So the body is a good indicator that I'm at the wrong path, or I'm at the right path.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And that is where pain will comes in. So at a certain point, in your life, at a certain age in your life, you will feel a certain pain. You know, like you get injured. You always fall sick easily. Your posture is not good. You feel like you can't perform as how you were when you were young. So if you don't listen to these signs, you know, you'll be miserable. You know, especially for me as a dancer, I still want to dance, and I have to do my work. I have to go back. Okay, slow down. Hey, what's wrong with me? You know, what do I need to work on? And I take a step back. Okay, maybe I don't have to do this, you know, and let's see what happens. And not only that, I look out for seniors, people who are older than me. They don't have to be dancers or fitness enthusiasts. I will look out to any elders, anyone who's older than me. I will strike a conversation with them, and I will always ask them these 3 things. What are the top 3 things they do to maintain how they are now? And
what are some of the answers you got?
Yeah. So the various answers are so interesting, like from diet, nutrition, eating 1 tomato a day. Yes, you'll be surprised.
1 tomato a day. Okay.
Taking a walk, go for a 1 hour walk daily. So stuff like this I take in and I digest. And then as long as I get older, I create my own way of doing it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Was it difficult initially to make that first step towards something that you mentioned, maybe your body signaling to you, hey, something's a little bit wrong, but you're perhaps so entrenched in certain habits. You mentioned partying, you mentioned drinking. Was it difficult to take the first step towards something a little bit unknown that you don't know whether this will solve it? Because we can always look back and we can think about things, but I would imagine at a particular point in time when maybe your friends are out partying, you have a history of doing things, and you wanting to, let's say, incorporate a new habit, it's always difficult.
Yeah.
Things aren't as clear, basically.
Yeah. From as a kid, I've always liked to do something out of the norm. So it could be my passion towards dancing, because nobody in my family chooses dancing as a career or as a passion. So I choose it, and it was sort of like it was very weird. Like everyone reacted differently, but I just go with it. So this habit that I've been having, I realize makes me do things that is out of the norm easily. So with that being said, I have this habit when I see something that is odd or something sounds really alternative, a bit of a counterculture element, I would. It drives my
It's
interest.
attractive to you.
Yeah, it's attractive, and I would love to try it. I would love to climb over that wall and just go for it. So what I'm trying to say is, ever since I was with my wife, she's not from my culture basically, because I'm born in Malay Muslim culture, and she's Chinese Indian, and when as the moment we start to go out, I got introduced to a new world, and we exchange worlds, of course. And because of me being introduced to this new world, I was inspired to try new things. Yeah, and that's where one of the takeaway is the healthy side of it. She introduces to me yoga. And
yoga is fucking difficult. So difficult.
But funny enough, I was attracted to yoga because they have a bit of similarities with breakdancing. Like
a little bit, yeah.
Like the inversions, hit stands, handstands, and all that. But the only difference is you have to use your feminine energy to execute the movement, which is the soft and controlled manner, rather than muscling your way through. Yeah, so and I take that as a challenge, and the more challenging it is, the more I want to try it. So yeah, I think, I don't know, to answer your question, I think it's maybe love.
Interesting.
Love, the love that drives me towards that curiosity, and makes me want to experience it, makes me want to manifest it. That energy, that love energy,
Because from what I can observe and from what I can hear from you, it feels as though you have always been very open and very curious to try new things, and you see it as a challenge to either adopt it or to learn it or to do it. Because I can imagine it's not all people is always that open. Especially if you have certain entrenched ideas, you have certain entrenched habits, it's oftentimes very difficult to change it. So I want to zoom in on something that you mentioned before I move on about choosing your passion. You mentioned the word choose. So I'm curious to know at this particular stage in life, do you think it's a choice, or do you feel that everyone has an individual passion of their own that they will probably find out or they have not found out yet? Or what do you think of it? Because this idea of passion is oftentimes a lot more nuanced than what maybe like the government would like to say or what people would like to say. Because it's so different for each other.
So just to go back to the question, you want to understand
Looking back at when you were young, you mentioned choosing dance. What is the inclinations about dance that was attractive to you? Are you able to think about it right now? Why is it so attractive to you back then and even now?
I think, to be honest, what drives me was the fact that you are being noticed. You know?
Yeah.
Well, I have to go back to the to my past, to my childhood, where my parents are too busy solving problems. You know, and unfortunately, because of that, I yearn for attention.
Yeah.
Although the irony is, I receive a lot of attention, but not from the parents, but from the grandparents.
Interesting.
And the uncles and aunties, you know, which I really, really appreciate. You know, I'm really, really grateful for. Yeah. But for some reason, you know that biologically
it's different.
You know, so I began to learn now, but back then, of course, I wasn't conscious. I was yearning to be noticed. You know, and then I was trying to figure out what can I do so that the world will notice me, you know, because when you're a kid, your parents are your world. Yeah. You know, and I remember I was watching this concert when I was 10 years old. My aunt just asked me, "Hey, you know, you want to follow me to this concert? It's free. I want to bring you out." I remember clearly it was just opposite Marina Square. And Esplanade wasn't even built yet. Yeah. There was a big field, and they call it what? Marina Promenade or I forgot.
Something like that.
Yeah. And then it's a stage. There's singers that are singing, and then there was a rapper that was performing. There's this group of rappers. Yeah. And there's like a lot of backup dancers that comes along with it. They were all wearing like military costumes. With those aviators, sunglasses.
Is it the 90s?
Yeah, it's the 90s.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, so can you imagine, like, as a kid, then you see that, you know, all of them they could dance, they could do the tricks and everything. So, whoa, this is so cool. And then I remember after they are done with the performance, they went out backstage, and all the fans, all the ladies would go behind and shouted their name and want to take pictures with them. Yep. And then I remember clearly, like, wow, this is a world that I want to explore. Yeah. You know, as a kid, your curiosity is so fresh, right? Like that desire is so sincere and genuine. I remember clearly that day, like, wow, I want to feel this, you know. I want to be in this world. You know, it's so great. It's so free. You know, it's so powerful.
Powerful is the word.
Yeah. So ever since then, I keep falling back to that incident. Yeah.
Was there difficulty in wanting to do, let's say, dance as a profession in Singapore throughout the years?
Oh, difficulty. Yes. Because first of all, I'm not a classically trained dancer. I wanted to go to LaSalle, but unfortunately, my mom believes that I'm better off as an engineer.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So I could understand.
Do you agree?
I absolutely I disagree, but
sure.
But I was still living in her wings. I just do what I can to make her happy. You know? Until I've graduated, I finished my studies. I got a lot of dance gigs, you know, a lot of opportunities. I was talent scouted by different agencies, different, you know, back then there's no social media. People just saw you, you know, and grab you and ask for your contact. Yeah. And that's how it is. And I was really privileged because back then there's not many male dancers.
Interesting.
Yeah. And we were talking about early 2000, you know. Well, there are many male dancers, but I was doing hip hop at the same time, you know, R&B stuff, hip hop, a bit of break dancing. Yeah. So there's not many dancers who could do that. I would say. Yeah. So I was really privileged to sort of like be the odd, the unique one.
Yeah.
And with that, they always hire me for projects and productions.
That's sick. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I would say I had it easy. I was lucky, I would say. But it was until I got injured about 10, 11 years ago. And I realized, hey, I need to do something about this. I need to understand the human body, the human anatomy, the human biomechanics.
Yep.
So I took up a course. I studied fitness. I got myself certified as a trainer, as a fitness coach. Of course, I do it to myself first. I train myself. I do a lot of rehabilitation work on myself, and because of that, I have a lot of clients. So I turn up. I treat all my dancer friends, all my theater friends, actor friends.
Yep.
So because I know how it is, to be injured or to be in pain. So I help them to get better, basically. And I realized that to be a dancer is not enough. To have just one skill set is not enough. So becoming a fitness coach or a rehab specialist helps. Empower one another, empower each other's skills. And until now, I'm still doing that.
I would imagine being in a dance crew and having someone that knows about fitness and knows about all these things is very vital.
It does. So which is why I feel like I have it easy until today. Because I don't depend sort of like my income on one kind of career. I have other kinds of career as well.
So zooming into the human biomechanics, that's just a word that you don't encounter very often. So what does that mean? And maybe we can move from there. So what does human biomechanics mean and why does it fascinate you?
Well, human biomechanics is basically...
Is it engineering?
Kind of like, it's like human engineering, basically. Understanding what the human body is designed to do. That is the main fundamental of the meaning, I would say. So humans are basically contralateral reciprocal beings.
What is contralateral? I've never new word.
So contralateral is basically opposites. So we are always working in opposites. Our right hand reach out, our left leg step forward, and then vice versa. And then reciprocal is when you always give and return. There's always there's always a feedback loop.
So talking about physical actions.
Yeah, exactly. So you give with your right hand and then you receive with your right leg. So there's always a reciprocal effect. Like an oscillation process.
Like an infinity sign, right?
Exactly. And that's how a lot of researchers say that the human brain actually develops when we walk, as we walk more. And that's how evolution works.
Because it's very difficult to walk with your left hand out and your left leg. It's usually like in tandem.
Precisely, yes. So that's how I feel I love to geek out with this human biomechanics, which is just as simple as walking. Because walking is something that we do every day, irregardless of who you are.
And there's a certain rhythm to it. Each one has their own rhythm, right?
Yeah, exactly. So to answer your question, that's, to me, is biomechanics. Mechanically moving contralaterally. According to your biology, which is as humans.
And when you begun to know about these concepts and when you started to explore deeper, did things around you start to make sense? Because I would imagine having this knowledge and looking at something like breakdancing, like the headstand or certain like power moves like flares and windmills, you get to see things differently instead of just throwing your body and trying to do it, which is most dancers when they were young, because it's like a woke kind of perspective.
Because
you have added information that is not readily available.
Exactly. So here's a funny story. Last year, actually a few months ago, I decided to train to do a back handspring.
A back handspring.
Which is like a backflip, but you land with your hands.
Two-handed?
Yeah, two-handed.
Okay. Jesus.
It's really fun.
Of course.
It's fun when you get to do it without pain, to be honest. But I was surprised that I was surprised that I I get to gain the courage to do it. And but after I get to do it, then I ask myself, what is this for? You know what I mean? I ask myself, what is this for? What am I thinking of getting some attention or validation from what? From girls or from public?
This is recently, right?
Yeah, this is recently. So it got me thinking, because I still want to do it, but then for some reason, the idea of keeping wanting to do it makes me question.
Interesting.
Makes me question, what is this for?
Yep.
I'm going to hurt my wrist. I'm going to keep hurting my wrist if I keep doing it.
Yep.
And I realized, you know what? I'm happy. I'm contented that I'm able to experience it.
Yeah.
So I'm done. So
you nailed it. Then there was an emptiness, and then you say, "You're done."
I mean, it's just me, because as you said, I with this set of information that runs in your head, I look at movements differently now, and where the impetus or where the desire or the what do you call it, the motivation comes from. And I realize if it doesn't come from a good place, I'd rather not do it.
Interesting. When you say a good place, do you mean something beyond the physical, like something mental, or even something more? Or do you just talk about physical? Because I would imagine knowing how the body works, knowing it sounds like you know a little bit of physics as well, and you're looking at how when you do an action, there are certain functions and certain levers as to how we were to balance our weight. And you will look at something like, let's say, like a backflip. You need to look at how you generate force, momentum from your hips and maybe from your thighs. You're pushing yourself, or something like that. You're looking at it from a like physics. So when you're talking about that, is it something more than just the physical, or is it something like beyond that, like mental?
Kind of both, actually.
Okay.
Because I feel there's always a reciprocal effect with the mind and the body, and also there's the heart.
The heart.
Yeah.
The heart as a physical thing, or the heart as a metaphorical?
Emotional standpoint. From emotional standpoint. So whenever when I say from coming from a good place, the place usually comes from where the mind sets in. If my mind wants to dominate, or my intention, wants to dominate, or my intention is to conquer, or my intention is to be the best, to compete.
Like competitively,
right? Competitive, yeah. I sort of like take a step back, because it gets tiring as you get older, It gets tiring, man. With this kind of desire to compete, and I think it really becomes pointless to have that desire. But if I do it coming from a good place where it's building a community, sharing, making mistakes, being vulnerable, I think that drives me more. It's more sustainable for me, I would say.
So very interesting. I want to go on a little bit of a tangent. We're talking about intentions. And sometimes intentions can be either misinterpreted, can be misguided, but we think it's the right intention. So what I'm curious to know is how do you perceive putting out good intentions? Like what is the framework that you're looking at it through? Like, what does that look like for you? Like, is it true? Just is it like a checklist? Is it you think it through yourself? Because I can imagine whatever we want to do, it will often be like the right decision for ourselves. We will often either think it's the right thing to do, we think we have the right intentions, but until it gets into the real world, into reality, then it's up for debate. It is anyone's guess as to whether that's the right intention, is the wrong. So I think there is a bit of so what I'm curious to know, and I think the question is what type of framework do you use to determine whether something is like the right intention for you? Because it is a very personal assessment ultimately.
It's got to be aligned with my heart. It has to be aligned with my heart and my breath.
Breath.
Yes, because sometimes when I'm not present, I have short breath. Everything is very restricted, and I just have to relax and be at the present moment. Like looking like now I'm looking at you. I'm relaxed and I'm connecting with you.
I'm glad to hear.
Yeah. So I feel that's how I really ensure myself that I'm having the right intentions.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's hard to sort of like keep this practice going, especially when you are at a fast-paced lifestyle or living in a city or when you're hustling and grinding.
Yeah.
But that's why we need to have a practice, you know, a practice which is your routine, your daily routine, morning routine. So I love to do breath work in the morning. I love to do meditation.
Yep.
I also like to do movement meditation. So yeah, so a lot of my practices, I ensure that it's aligned with, basically it provides me tools to carry when I'm out working. So that if let's say I'm struggling in a complex problem solving situation, this helps me to calm down. Okay, and then I take listen back to my breathing, and then see what I can do now.
Yeah.
If I can't do it, I need to ask for help.
Yep.
You know, find different ways to solve the problem. To really go towards that goal. What is the goal, and what is the best way to act upon that goal without hurting anybody or yourself. Yeah, that's how I would say.
How did you come to realize that your breath is as important as your meditations and your movement meditation? How did you come to arrive at that particular thought? Because I don't think it's particularly common. Like people are very conscious about their breath, because you're not thinking to yourself, oh, I have to breathe. But it's more of a natural thing. Naturally, you learn how to breathe. But in the unconscious way that we learn how to breathe, we could be breathing the wrong way. It could lead to other things. So I'm curious to know, how did you arrive at the thought that, oh, my breath is important and I want to be more conscious about it, especially in times of stress, especially in times of, let's say, oh, there's this complex thing that I want to solve. Let's dial it back, go back to my routines, and then we'll work from there, and not be too, I guess the word is not be too swamped by external stimulus.
It takes me back when I first did yoga. I didn't understand aligning the breath with the movements. It took me a while.
Aligning the breath with the movements.
Aligning.
What does that mean?
So basically, every movement is every inhale or exhale. You know, as you reach out your hands up, arms up above your head, you inhale.
Yep.
And then you bring your hands down, exhale. So there's always a breath that is in line with the movement. You know what I mean? So when I started doing yoga, I was struggling with that. But as I practice it makes sense. Because for some reason it teaches my body to act with the breath, to take a step back, take a breather, and act upon it. So I would say that yoga helped me realize that, you know. I still remember when I first did yoga, I always get lightheaded because of, you know, consciously need to deep breathing and complete exhaling. But as I practice it, it gets easier, you know, and so yeah, I subconsciously whatever I apply in the yoga mat, I also apply in the daily lives. Yeah, as I said, be it consciously or unconsciously. So yeah, and I also apply it in my strength training as well. You know, when you lift weights, you need to exhale or inhale as you
do?
Push the weight. It does help with the quality of the movement. And lately, I've been doing a lot of kettlebell juggling. And with the breath, it actually helps me put my mind away from whether I can catch the kettlebell or not. So as I exhale or as I relaxes my breath, I get to relax my hand gestures, decrease a bit of tightness. You know? So there's always that middle way, that sweet spot that the breath allow you to feel in a difficult situation. So speaking about kettlebells, because every time, I believe the foundational movement of the kettlebell exercise is like the kettlebell swing. And if you look to YouTube for tutorials, they will always tell you that when you're swinging, you have to do very short breaths. You have to, so that
you are able to you keep things a bit tight.
Yeah.
When you're doing your breath.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned meditations, and I'm curious to know your thoughts on what the purpose of meditation is, because it is a word that is very commonplace now. Or you do your 5 minutes meditations, or you meditate before you sleep. But what do you think is the purpose of meditation?
It's basically calmness. Being able to do nothing at ease.
To do nothing.
Yeah, at ease.
Okay.
Most of the time, find it hard to do that.
Your brain is always buzzing.
Exactly.
You might have tension in your body. Yeah.
So that's why a lot of people are scared or avoid meditation because I can't do meditation. But there's something in there that you don't want to face, or you don't want to do your work. So I would simply say is the act of doing nothing at ease. Yeah.
It sounds almost counterproductive, right? Because if meditation is the act of doing nothing, the idea of wanting to meditate in the first place is doing something.
Exactly. Yeah. The irony. Right?
This is the irony.
Yeah.
Was it difficult for you in the beginning? Do you remember your journey? Like, was it like, I want to try meditating for like a minute a day? Yeah.
Well, the only problem I have with meditation last time, I always tend to fall asleep.
It's fair.
Yeah.
If it's comfortable.
Yeah, it's comfortable, exactly. And I would always tend to doze off. Whoa, like as if you go down the roller coaster, right? Because you're about to fall,
Yeah.
But after a while, you get to find the middle way. Whenever you feel like you are too relaxed, you go back to the center. Whenever you feel like you see too much visuals, you go back to your present moment. You go back
so
to the center.
It's a drawing back to yourself?
Kind of. Yeah, it's like this barometer or this seesaw, that you want to keep it at the center, which as much as you can. Yeah. So that's how I look at it in meditation.
Yeah. Has it changed through the years that you've done it, or do you try to keep it simple and effective? Yeah.
To be honest, I don't do stillness meditation a lot. I do it occasionally.
Yeah.
I do a lot of movement meditation.
What's the difference?
So the difference is so in Silat, which is what I practice, there's these 4 movements that I do, basically like 3 times a week or 4 times a week, depending on my schedule. So you sort of like embodying the 4 elements of nature, which is earth, wind, fire, and water.
It's like Captain Planet, but gotcha. Yeah. Okay, you're embodying these elements. Okay.
Yeah. So every earth element, there's a physical gesture. So this is actually a practice of philosophy from Silat tour, and Silat tour teaches me how to sort of like go back to the self and putting these imageries of nature while doing these physical gestures.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for earth, I will clench my fist and punch it forward. And then for water, I will cup my hands together and then bring it up above my head.
Yep.
And then for fire, I'll just bring my hands, palms together in a prayer position. And then for wind, I will just twirl my fingers in front of me.
Yeah.
Like I'm
manipulating.
Or unscrewing a light bulb.
Yeah.
So by doing this repetitively, it brings your mind into a flow state, and you tend to forget about what your body is doing. You are just observing.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it takes a while to gain this sensation. The first few times, you were just focusing on the details of the movement, the physical movement. Then after a while, it's just automatic. Your body just moved on its own.
Yep.
And then your mind just went somewhere else. And then, and you will experience a lot of things.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's it is said that this practice can tap into or can bring you into somewhere deep as cellular memory or genetic memory.
Well, what are those 2 things?
It's I don't know if I'm not mistaken, it's a memory that is stored in your DNA or in your cells.
Yeah.
And we are talking about memories before this lifetime. We are talking about past lives. You know, we are talking about ancestral memory. And
it's pretty wild.
And it's pretty woo woo now.
do you subscribe to that to the idea?
I wouldn't say I would. I don't know. I wouldn't say I intentionally subscribe to it. It's just I just experience it. I experienced it myself. You know, there was one point of time during circuit breaker, I was doing the meditation a lot because you know there's a lot of free time, and I find myself in a space. It's just me, and there was a waterfall in front of me. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, and
that's wild. Okay.
Yeah. And then I saw a guy who is a Silat warrior, and he doesn't have a face. He has this the headpiece, which is the tanja, and he looks so ethereal. You know, he looks so alien-like, like not really human. I would say. And he was just watching me, and I was just looking at him. That's it.
Yeah.
And then when I came back to my consciousness, my wife was telling me, "Oh my God, you were dancing a lot," and I was sweating. You know, I didn't even realize. Yeah. So
and you didn't mention that you were scared or anything.
No. I was. I didn't even realize that I was transiting into that world.
Yeah.
You know, I was so present.
Yeah.
Until I actually came back to realization that, oh my God, I'm sweating a lot.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So
how would your mind rationalize something like that? Like, is it something to do with the movements, or is it unexplainable?
Yeah, unexplainable, man. I could try to join the dots together, you know, with the best I can whenever I have time. But at the end of the day, I think it's just my own experience. I can't expect anyone to have the same experience.
It's a personal experience ultimately.
Yeah, I can't just go to my student or my friend, hey, you got to do this because you will see this at the end of the day. You know, no, I don't think that's the way. Yeah.
So it sounds as though you're very in touch with your body from top down. So I'm curious to know, how do you talk about these concepts, or how do you explain these concepts to people who might not be so in tune with their body? Because not everybody is. Not everybody is active. Not just being active, but not everybody is that observant and in tune to what their body wants and what their body needs. Yeah. How do you begin to touch upon these concepts to them? Yeah.
I would say just be with nature. Because we are also nature. You know, we are humans, right? The best step to do to be in touch with the body is get close to nature. You know, when that's how I see it. When you go for walks in the forest, or you travel and go for hikes in the mountains, you know, nature will give you the sensations that your body will feel that you never feel before if you keep working in the city.
Yep.
You know. So yeah. For example, you know, when I go recently, I went to Mount Kinabalu for a hike. Wow, I didn't know that the altitude is so tough, man. Like I really couldn't fight it. I can't fight nature. I can't expect the environment to adapt to me. You know, I really have to take a step back, rest when I can, listen to my body. If I don't listen to my body, I will suffer, and it's not going to be good. You know, and it's high up in the mountains. You know, you don't want to be suffering. You know, you need to be able to walk at least. You know, so I realized being in touch with nature will make you be in touch with your body. Yeah.
But I think it's also important to listen and react, or even act on these emotions, these feelings that you feel, because it's not oftentimes shown. It's something all internal, and it can be easily dismissed as nothing, or it's just something that I felt, but it's not important. But it could be a vital sign that say, okay, maybe I need to act on something. How do you think of that? How do you be attentive? Because I can imagine in a day we're not conscious. We're we're not consciously telling our body, oh, digest this. We're not consciously telling our body to do different things because the body's pretty amazing. But how do you be so attentive to yourself that you know, okay, this is something's wrong here. I need to act on it. Yeah.
Let me just digest that for a while.
Yeah. Because it might not come as naturally.
Yeah,
and I don't think it comes naturally. It's something that you have to dial back.
Yeah,
you have to really, I guess the idea is knowing yourself. Not about what you want to do, but I guess literally knowing that the body you have.
Yeah. I think, that's a good question actually. It's really interesting that when you ask me this, it make me realize that it can be very, very difficult for other people because I'm so used to this thing, right? To this whole embodying itself. I think it goes back to the simple things, which is gratitude or loving yourself, loving your body. Be grateful that you are able to move, or be grateful that you still have your four limbs.
Yeah.
This the practice of gratitude with yourself and your body would sort of like lead to healthier practices, awareness of how you are feeling. Because if you do, I feel like, I don't know, I believe if we lack these practices, we get astray away, we are separated from the body, we will do things that destroy the body, that's how I look at it.
Separation from the body feels like a common scenario for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I don't think it's too uncommon.
Yeah. And unfortunately, because a lot of times we like to, this is how I observe.
Yeah.
A lot of us, we like to gather as group of friends to destroy ourselves.
Whoa. Could you elaborate on that? Yeah.
Like for example, you go out, have drinks, to put it blindly, we are destroying ourselves. We can say one glass or two, a little bit of fun won't kill. But until when we want to normalize this, right? It's time we are already exposed to information in this day and age. It is only unwise to keep going like this, And even as simple as going for dinner with a buffet, over consuming, partying with too over excess of food, feeding kids with too many sweeteners and sugar.
That is killer. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say, I would agree upon that what you mentioned. Sorry, I kind of forgot why I talk about this.
So It's interesting you mentioned this train of thought, because I don't think it's for lack of information that we are doing these things. I think, in fact, there is what I'm curious to hear your thoughts are is, in fact, I think we know that these things are hurting us, harming us,
absolutely.
Especially if we overconsume them. What I'm curious to ask you is, why do you think we still do it?
Stress. Yeah, stress is so underrated. It's overly used, especially at the same time, the irony.
What do you mean by that? Yeah.
We don't know that we are, I feel like most of us don't know that we are stressed. We get, especially again, living in a city, having this hustle and grind culture, we always focus on productivity, work, hustle, get things done, be in our phones, be on our computers. The mind is always heavily stored with a lot of information. And because of that, we also want something to reward ourselves. So we work so hard, we want to reward ourselves. Hey, it's only normal, right, for us humans. And then what do? We go for a nice dinner. We go for drinks, get hammered. I feel like, excuse me. I feel like if there's imbalance, we will counter react those imbalance with something else as well that is imbalancing our body. That provides imbalance in the body. Yeah. So because the reason why I say this is because I experienced it myself. especially my job is very physical. So I teach dance, I teach kids, and I have clients to train in the morning.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, I have choreography jobs where I have to maximize my brain power to create dance moves for a show.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'm called to do a show.
Yeah.
So everything's like pam, pam,
So
pam.
pulling you like 4 different ways.
Exactly, yeah. And sometimes I realize I tend to fall to my bad habits. So just to share with you, I had this funny habit with Prima Deli waffles.
Specifically, I know what you're talking about. Specifically, do you put like a special like flavoring?
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Okay.
Chocolate and peanut butter mix.
Okay,
so
cool.
So my wife knows this. So whenever I have this craving for it, I know my dopamine is kicking in. Because I want that reward. Because I work too much, and I realize, hey, how come my body is not asking for healthier things? It's so strange. Yeah, and that's how aware I am with my body. I get to realize these decisions I'm making, and then I think to myself, okay, I'm working too hard now. I need to take a break. I need to take a chill pill, and I slow things down. And I try to say no to certain projects that is taking too much energy for my body. So just slow things down and take good quality jobs, so that my body can be in good shape as well. It's been great now, and I've been avoiding the Prima Deli.
Much to their dismay.
Even I tried to go to the shop and buy it, and for some reason I'm not craving for it.
No. When you smell it, it doesn't.
Yeah. Because I know that I'm consciously aware that if I'm gonna eat that, my body doesn't like it. My tongue will like it.
Yeah.
But to a certain degree, would I do this? And what to a certain extent should I meet the desires of my tongue instead of my body? So I realized, what, the body is more of a long-term effect.
Yeah.
So it sort of like affect my decision making at that point of time. Yeah.
How do you balance between the idea of rewarding yourself or chastising yourself for not even wanting like a waffle?
How do I balance it?
Yeah.
I changed the reward. I changed my perspectives of the reward.
Okay.
Yeah. For example, most people think that going for a long walk is a punishment.
Fair.
But I think of it as a reward. Because to distress me.
Yep.
I like to walk my dog every morning. First thing in the morning is something that I like to do.
You look forward to it as well.
Yeah. To get in the sun, and I like to walk barefoot as well.
Interesting.
Yeah. So sometimes I just take out my top off and just really get my body.
Sounds really painful walking barefoot, especially with this heat and if you're on gravel and everything.
It takes time to build the calluses. There's the sun calluses, and the calluses that protects you from the UV rays, and also the calluses that protects you from the surface.
Yep.
So I feel, once you get used to it, it's really rewarding. I feel like light plays a big part for us humans.
Light.
Sunlight especially.
Sunlight.
Because it gives life. If you look at it from a nature standpoint, it provides life for everything. Yeah. So getting into sunlight first thing in the morning is my favorite thing. Yeah, and walking barefoot, because I feel it just relaxes my mind when my feet is touching the soil. Yeah. To some people, I remember whenever I bump into the cleaners in the HDB that I stayed, he always say, boy, careful, boy, careful. And then later got sharp thing. He will always say that to me. And and I wonder, I was telling my wife, I wonder people will say will call us the HDB hippies. Walking barefoot with the tops off, and first thing in the morning. But
I would imagine it's pretty unconventional.
Yeah. But I would hope to inspire I don't know, people, because I feel it's the most natural thing to do. If you look at it,
Is it like a sense of connecting back to nature?
Exactly, yeah. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, because if you think about living, not just in the city, but just living, like you go out, you're wearing shoes, you're not, you are covered. There are explanations as to why you want to wear shoes and everything.
Yeah.
But in a sense, it kind of removes you from, I guess, your nature.
Yeah.
Your actual human nature. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of these things are like byproducts of living in a society, in a quote unquote civil society. You're wearing clothes, you're wearing shoes, you're covering up basically.
Yeah. Especially, as you said, it's true. It's when you live in a city, we tend to forget that we are part of nature. Yeah, which is why a lot of people are having stress and anxiety, because we are disconnected. So for me, having these little practices in my life help me be connected again. Yeah.
So what I find interesting about what we've been talking about the body and stuff, it sounds as though you have a very healthy relationship with your body.
I would hope so.
You would hope so?
I'm still learning.
You're still learning?
Yeah, I'm still learning. There's still parts, what do you call it? Parts of me that is degenerating, and I'm learning how to prevent it from degenerating, or study more or gaining more knowledge to help it regenerate. Yeah. So that's where I am right now.
So what I'm curious to know is, for those who might be listening that might not have that much of an attunement with their body, or might not have that healthy of a relationship with their body because of a wide variety of reasons, how would you suggest, or what do you think could be first initial steps for them to even start or to bridge that gap, or to start the conversation with themselves? Is it like what you said about gratitude? Just starting there, because I find it difficult to imagine gratitude to be hateful. I do find it quite difficult, because it always has this idea of like a warmth to it. You are thankful for something. You can say it spitefully, sure, but it's still thankfulness.
It's hard to go deep with this question, especially in Singapore, because the idea of wellness and well-being, it's still very young. It's because we are only on the surface of things. So what I'm trying to say is that most people, when it comes to being healthy, getting in shape, is to look like one of the Avengers.
Fair.
Yeah.
So it's very like surface.
Exactly.
Yep.
And everyone is achieving, is working towards that. So if I were to answer you that question in a Singapore context, it will be finding out what's your goal of how you want to look like, or how you want to feel like. That's the first step, I would say. Finding out that goal. Specifically, really do some journaling work, I would say. Really find out what you really want to look and feel like. Yeah.
But it's interesting you mentioned it, because the idea of wanting to look like something and wanting to feel like something, it could be two different things ultimately. And some people might not be able to pass the difference. They might think it's the same thing.
Because most of us want to look good and we don't mind going through the pain.
I find it difficult to believe that people would aspire to look bad. I find it difficult to believe. People naturally want to look good.
Which is why I love to work towards functionality.
Functionality, okay.
Yeah, because functionality allows the body to work without any restrictions, and also to be at service. Your body gets to function so that you get to connect, give, experience to nature or world or people. And with functionality as well, you get to feel good, So, and for some reason, I feel, this is how I see, if you get to achieve these things, your body will get in shape naturally.
Do you need to take like a leap of faith? Like you have to, something has to give. You have to start an action first. And I imagine it's quite difficult to predict how you might feel in the future if things you were to continue. So I guess in a sense, ultimately you have to take a step out, and it's still faith. You don't know how you might react. You don't know how you might feel.
That's a good way to put it. I would say, have a leap of faith. Or talk to someone, or hire a trainer. Because it is something that you don't know. You need to do something so that you know. So what's the best thing? Gain new insights. Talk to someone. Study. I think that's, to me, is the first step.
Is it always this holistic, like this idea of physical fitness tying into mental fitness and wellness? Because I can imagine, depending on the trainer and depending on, I guess, their interests, their curiosities, and I guess how they've lived up to a certain point, it might only be surface level. Oh, I want to have this thing, you do these things. But sometimes it doesn't go beyond that because they might not have the knowledge.
Yes. I think, sorry, could you repeat that again? Sorry.
Oh, I can imagine it is usually just, it's also highly dependent on who you're conversing with as well. Because I would imagine in the realm of physical training, it is not often people tie physical wellness with mental wellness and I guess mental training.
It's as I said, is the idea of wellness in Singapore is still very young. So I think now we are slowly learning how to integrate.
Are we going in the right direction?
We haven't had enough people or enough practitioners or putting the practices in institutions. I think we haven't had enough data to gather that. But I have a feeling it's starting.
That's cool.
Yeah. So integrating the well-being or the wellness side into the fitness side, more conscious approach rather than just going through reps and sets, and just building muscles. And then you feel empty inside, So I like to, for me, I like to connect things, to see the interconnectedness of things. That's how I looked at my own practice. It's a journey, it's a process, but more and more, I think the young ones, the Gen Zs and the millennials, I'm a millennial, so are starting to question these things. Is it possible? And then they're doing their authentic work and expressions to connect these dots together. And then they can create their own voice.
What do you think changed from, let's say, you growing up as a millennial to what you have observed with the Gen Zs? What do you think changed to, I guess, propel them and allow them to be so informed about certain things like this?
Internet, social media, internet, because we can get knowledge more than just going to schools and going to libraries. It's just phones now, right? So at such a fast speed, we can accumulate so much knowledge, these days. So because of that, we know something's not right. We understand that, hey, this thing is not good for my mental being, or this thing is not sustainable, or this thing is not good for Mother Nature because too much materials. What can we do to avoid consumerism and focus on natural movements more, something like that. So I think because of the IT era that we live in, sort of like opens up people's minds.
Fascinating. We're talking about Singapore, and you having grown up in Singapore, how do you feel about living here? Because there are very different ways to talk about Singapore. Some people may talk about how pressurized Singapore always is. We're not just talking about physicalities or the economy. We're dialing straight down into how you feel about it. Does it, because it might feel like, the terms rat race is oftentimes thrown about, or you're just working to buy a flat and you're paying off the flat and blah, blah, blah. How do you feel about Singapore, having lived here for so long, having grown up here and at the stage where you're at right now?
I don't know about you, man. Like, I think it's getting hotter.
Oh, it's fucking hot, dude.
Yeah, but it's a good place to make money. I would say, yeah, to earn money. But to be honest, I think it's a tricky space to live.
Tricky.
Yeah,
What do you mean by tricky?
Because it's subjective on how you want to live your life. You want to live your life with in a material way, or you want to live your life in a more relaxed space, be in touch with nature more. You know, so it's a tricky thing, I would say.
Yeah.
And because Singapore is such an efficient space to make money, is so tempting to stay here all the time. You know, but then when the stress strikes, you know, we most of us Singaporeans will take a break, go for holidays, you know, and then we come back again, and then we go back to the hustle and grind.
Yeah, until like 3 years later, you get stressed again and you need a sabbatical.
So I feel I like Singapore. It's very efficient, very organized, very safe. You know, we all could agree to that. You know, but to live life to the fullest, you know, to live with joy, you know, to connect with the depths of our hearts, to feel nature, I don't think Singapore would be, because too many buildings here, man. Like, we are lacking of space, you know, even aerospace.
Fair.
Too many high-rise buildings.
Yep.
So coming here to work is good, but then we have to figure out how to continue this life. You know.
Do you feel like it is not this sense that something is lacking goes beyond just the physicality of buildings or things, but there is something that we tend to neglect in the Singaporean society? Because I don't know about you, but having grown up with a Chinese family, with parents and everything, I don't think we talk about I guess emotions a lot. We don't talk about problems. We don't talk about emotions. It could be an Asian culture. It could be an Asian setting, or it could just be my family. I don't know. But do you feel that it goes beyond? Like there's something. Some people might point to, it's something spiritual. Some people might point to, there's just something missing. Like you come here to work. The physicalities of working here, making money, that if you know what you're doing, you know what you want to do, that is perfect. But it feels at the end of the day hollow. I think hollow is the word that I would probably use to describe this point I'm trying to make. Is it something that you have experienced? Is it something you feel like something is not right? This space is good to make you feel comfortable in a certain way, but on a totally separate thing, it is degrading in another way, because it is not feeding you, or it's not inspiring you, or it's in a sense putting limits on this other person that it doesn't really feed. How do you feel about that?
I think for me is really being authentic. That's how I feel. It's hard. It's really hard to be authentic in Singapore. To express your individuality, you know. Maybe on the younger generation now, it's easier. But from how I experience it myself, it's tricky, because every time I want to be something or somebody else, you know, it's so restricted. Because my culture is where I grew up with in my family is very collectivist kind of culture, you know. I represent them, you know. I whatever I wear or whatever I do or whatever I am, I'm representing them. You see.
Would it be safe to say that the family name has meaning?
Kind of. Yeah. Kind of. There's pride. Yeah, there's pride into it.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I can understand that, you know. But you know, ever since I saw those dancers dancing on stage, you know, I can't take my mind off that. You know, I want to climb over those walls, and I want to walk my own path, and it was a journey, you know, and I need to gain more knowledge how to climb those walls. That's the first step. Yeah, and then gain more knowledge how to walk my own path in that new world. So, not many of us are aware that there's other things outside of those walls, or not many of us have the courage to find tools to climb over those walls. Yeah. So I would say like that, metaphorically.
How does one find courage then?
We have to go back to love.
What do you mean by love? Yeah.
So how to say it? It's the one that feeds your curiosity. You know, when you fall in love, you know, you really want to feed your curiosity because you're so curious you're so attracted to this someone, you know, and you want to feed this curiosity, you see, and this energy, this feeling, this sensation is love. And then if you are not in love that strong, it wouldn't give you that courage, you know, to overcome those fears and those procrastination or laziness. You know, you will go. You will just go, man.
Do you think it's not just about generating love and this energy, but it's also about being mindful about, I guess, what is taking it away? Because I can imagine with energy depletes. And from the very moment you wake up, your body takes energy, your mind takes energy. And we're never talking about external stimulus that's just taking away your energy. And I think it's particularly common for people to just go about their days and their routines and their work and everything, and they reach a certain point in their life where things blow up, and they don't notice the signs and the warning signs that it's just along the way, and they take a sabbatical and they do something entirely different, or rather in shows this is called the midlife crisis, and they do something so drastic.
I think that's really common for us because, as I said, you know, living in a city does make you feel like a robot, you know, and at the end of the day, the idea is about productivity. You know, we need to have an end goal to achieve something. Everything is all about achieve. But we forgot about connecting from the hearts. You know, we forgot about being human, you know, and because of that, it will sort of like lead to, I don't know, unnecessary actions or habits, unhealthy habits. I think it's fair enough to say that all of us are actually not that stupid to
agree.
To be like this. That's why we are also smart enough to balance things out with sabbatical holidays.
We have to realize that we need to balance it out.
Because I mean, in a reality, we still need to earn money, right? And practically, practically, we still need to earn money. And if we just go live in a jungle, you know, for how long can we do that, right? So it's all about finding that balance. And the midlife crisis part is when I feel it becomes too much. Too much to a point that I don't know, I like to put it in a way that your inner child is not met until it has to be met at a certain age that is too late. So that's where midlife crisis usually strikes, I feel.
So this idea of the inner child, could you explain or could you elaborate a little bit more? What do you mean by that? Because it could be people's first time hearing of such a concept. Oh, there's this inner child inside me, but I thought I'm the only one. Like I'm the master of my own universe, of my own fate. What is this inner child concept you're talking about?
It's basically like your psyche. It's part of your psyche, part of your programming in the first, 10 years of your life, you know, something that when this period is the period where you are the purest, you are basically, what do you call that? What's that word? Basically, you're just pure and you're innocent. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, and you are just taking in. You are just receiving. You're like a sponge. And you just also meeting your curiosity. You know, like you like to play. There's no fear. There's no overthinking.
There's no filter, basically.
Exactly.
For better or worse.
Yeah. So at this age, usually where you find out your natural traits, talents, or gifts, or natural so basically natural things that excites you. You know, and that's how you get to build your character along the way. But then the tricky part is when trauma carries during this stage. And then it sort of like hides. It closes out the heart. You know, with fear. With judgment and the inner child doesn't want to, is afraid to explore the world anymore and just follow instructions.
Yeah.
Until at a certain age, this inner child will keep knocking on your door. Hey, you know, I need to get out. I can't stand this, you know. Yeah. So there's a bit of disconnectedness when trauma usually happens from the adult and his or her inner child.
Yeah.
And when it's not met or when it's not connected, I would say midlife crisis usually happens, you know.
Yeah.
You suddenly feel like you want to do so many things, you know. Yeah. And nothing wrong with that, you know. Until now, I feel like I think I have that. Like, like the things, like for example, the back handspring. I feel like I couldn't, I feel like I didn't dare to do that.
Yeah.
I didn't have enough courage to do that when I was younger.
Yeah.
But now I feel I want to do it. Yeah. I want to meet the needs of that inner child when I was 18 years old.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
I can imagine that there has to be like a sense of reconciliation.
Yeah.
I guess because your parents, in the best of scenarios, I would imagine that at a certain point of growing up, when you're entering your own adulthood, I think most people will realize they will begin to see their parents differently as well. Because you, as you're growing up, from your childhood to your teens, to your late teens, to your early adulthood, you get to see your parents differently. And it's very difficult to think of parents as any more than your parents. But I believe reading through just reading and listening to how people talk about their experience, at a certain point in their adulthood, they will look at their parents differently. They're just people. They're just adults. They're just trying to do their best. And that's in the best case of scenario. And you're able to reconcile the things that you remember and the things that maybe subconsciously you have been carrying on. But I can imagine the worst case of scenarios where the parents are neglectful. The parents are unintentionally neglectful, or they're just terrible parents. And that is where you get saddled with a huge amount of things and problems that it's not even your fault. Because you say you're a sponge for better or worse. You can't really filter out, oh, this is a good thing or a bad thing. You're just taking everything in and bottling up. Until a certain point in mind, everything comes out.
Yeah, it's true, man. Like, I think at the end of the day, I feel like everyone's still trying to figure things out. This thing called life.
And I think that's important to be mindful of, isn't it? It's so easy to have a snap judgment of people, especially today. These days, it's so easy because, especially let's say if you're hearing about something on the screen, you're hearing about something on the news, it's so easy. It's as if we're conditioned to have very, very snappy judgment. We judge something and we move on. But we don't stop to think that, hey, people are just being people. We don't stop to have second, third, or even fourth order thinking where, okay, let's chill a bit. Why are we thinking like this? Why are we having such harsh critical judgment? Is it because we need to let out stress? We need to find a punching bag? It's very interesting to see how there is modern society and there's like a meta society where it happens on the internet. It is very interesting to see how things happen on that particular level because you could say it's just comments. It is nothing tangible. It's nothing physical. But you do feel the tangible hits to, I guess, your psyche, your mental well-being, and it gets pretty deep. It gets really, really dark sometimes.
It's very interesting that you mentioned this meta verse-ish that we're talking about. It only started slightly more than a decade ago. You know?
About that,
and I can remember how life was, back then. It's simpler, slower, simpler during the MSN days or MIRC, right? It's simpler, and then you connect more in a tangible sense. And for some reason, all these I don't know, trickster, shadow-like characters that they don't get to express it on the real world, it's all there, It's so, as you say, it can be really dark. And we have to be really careful with this, especially educating the younger generations as well about this. Like, not prioritizing connecting online too much, but whereas more with our hearts more, like now, how we are now, I think that's so vital.
I think one critical problem to that idea is that not even just communicating online, but let's say you're just firing off a negative comment at somebody. It feels fucking good, especially if you had a fucking bad day and you're just commenting on someone and you're calling their names and you're calling them, it feels good. That is the feedback loop. We're talking about, let's say, buying certain things or going out or over consuming. That is a very harsh feedback loop because you're justifying things to yourself. And if you're not conscious of something like that, it just keeps going on.
Exactly.
But it's interesting. Do you find that there is not a lot of space? We're not talking just about physical space, but there is not a lot of space to make mistakes this day and age. Everything feels like it is balancing off a razor's edge. Like everything feels it feels very important, but it doesn't feel very important at the same time. Like there is this like tension there. Is it something that you have experienced? Is it something you feel? Because looking online, looking through Reddit and reading people's experiences, it does feel like there is this tension.
I think it's the concept of time that creates this perspective. Because we are always rushing for time. We are always filling up our time with things. And because of that, we feel so tight, physically or mentally, and because of our concept of time now is so tight, the space and the time of creating and experiencing mistakes is very complex. It can be very hard because people want things fast. Even in the fitness and wellness world, people want to get better fast.
Like results.
And it's all about, at the end of the day, it's about what is the product you can get from the work. And if it's too slow, now I'm gonna, because I can pay more for a thing that can be faster, why not, right? So people are going towards that because of time. But if we understand the nature of time, or how time works in nature.
What do you mean by that?
How the concept of time works in nature has a certain way, there are
seasons. It is usually timeless because I don't think the lion tracks what time. It's exactly. Like there are certain seasons for hunting and there are seasons for lying low.
Yes.
And there's hibernation for certain animals.
Exactly.
They fly north, they fly south.
Yep. And even like, for example, when you make sourdough bread, you need to give it time to proof.
You can't rush it.
Exactly. So you need to allow nature to do its work, to give it time, so it's the same as creating or making things, you need to allow mistakes to jump in and then you can learn and then you become wiser, but these little practices I feel like is gone, because people already know the skill sets and the templates of doing things. And then they just know how to do it and bam, there you go. And even worse, now you have ChatGPT.
That is another problem. But it's interesting because the idea of being pragmatic and the idea of being like good at your things leaves very little room or very little breathing room for mistakes. And I guess it can be argued that mistakes and mishaps and where you're doing things unconventionally, that is the spark of creativity. That is how you get creative things, because if you're just constantly doing things the pragmatic and the most efficient way, you get results for sure. But A, to what end? And B, you're just like a robot. A robot does things efficiently and well, because they're able to figure out by their internal logic what is the best way to do it.
And sadly to say, is what we are going through most of the time here.
Do you think that is programming from families living here? Do you think it's the education system that we both grew up with?
It could stem from everything. Family, advancement of technology, gen pop culture, everything. Because humans, I think it is in our nature to always go towards advancement, evolution, transformation. And
I would say we go towards comfort.
Comfort, comfort, and that takes advancment to achieve that, right?
It does.
And because of that, we tend to lose or forget the essence of this creative process. But that's why I think there's artists that that exists in a society to balance things out.
Yeah.
You know?
So going back to the initial premise, do you think everyone is a creative? Do you think everyone has like a passion that whether they're actively pursuing or not pursuing, do you think everybody has that?
I think so, yeah. I think everybody has it. It's just a matter of time whether they find it or not. You know? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So us being in Singapore, and one thing I find really interesting what you do is the brother circle. I would like you to explain to the listeners those who might not know what that is. What is that?
So the brother circle, founded by myself and is also co-facilitated by myself and my brother Chun.
Yourself. Okay. Okay.
So Chun, so my brother Chun, he's Wim Hof. I don't know if you.
I'm familiar with Wim Hof. Yeah.
Yeah, he's Wim Hof breathwork practitioner and facilitator as well.
Yep.
So if you want to experience the methodologies, hit him up.
Yep.
So yeah, we run the circle for about a year now. And it's basically a space for men to just be themselves.
What does be themselves mean in this context?
A space where they get to talk. Sometimes men wants to talk about things that they couldn't talk at home to their wives or boyfriends or girlfriends. You know? We're just providing space for them to talk and chat and connect with one another, with our hearts and minds, and also physically. So most of the time when we gather with guys, with my guy friends, I lack the funny enough, I lack the physical connection. I'm not talking about wrestling or sexual I don't know intentions, but we're talking about just platonic touch. So I want to normalize that. So we do like embodiment practices where they carry each other, express their power by putting into locks, putting the other brothers' joints into locks so they couldn't move, and then express their boundary by telling each other that, hey, this is too hard, that kind of thing. So using the body to figure things out. Because sometimes the best way is to just explore physically.
Explore, experiment, right?
Yeah, physically, rather than just discuss it with our heads. Because that's what men usually tend to do. We always like to discuss with our heads, but we forgot what to do with our bodies. So my job is to, because I'm so used to my body, I thought like, hey, you know what? Why don't I share this to men? And yeah, that's how I do in the breath circle.
So many tangents. So when you were talking about the embodying of the action and stuff, and about how when they're interlocking and you would encourage people to sound off a boundary, I can imagine for most people, for most male-minded people, they'll just go through it. They'll just grit it and go through it. But expressing that boundary, I would imagine, is quite vital for people who are not used to it. Even vocalizing it, saying that, hey, it's too much, it's too little. Because unfortunately, most males, they would tend to just grit their teeth and go through it for whatever reasons. I mean, I could understand because, men, especially in Singapore, we are good men. We work very hard. We want to provide. We want to be the breadwinners for the family. We want to support the family. But to a certain degree, we forget about ourselves, and as we said, when there's too much service to others, that's where the shadow qualities emerge. The aggression, the sexual misdeeds, or the unhealthy habits, eating habits, alcoholism, stuff like that. So you'll be surprised. Some men don't know they have boundaries. Interesting.
Don't know they can say no to things. So that's the interesting part I realized.
Why is running this brother circle and having this people communicate with each other through physical, through voice, through touch, why is it important for you?
Because I experience it myself. I mean, this is based on my personal experience, because it's only fair for me to create this movement because of something that I lack for my life, right? So as I said, like I come from a traditionalist family where love is always expressed through act of service and food or money, but then touch is never there. So and I realized touch is so important. It was until I was married to my wife, and she loves to hug me. We have a dog as well, and I love hugging my dog. And I realized that it's so therapeutic. It just increases your serotonin hormones, automatically.
Yep.
And my niece and nephews, I always hug them. So it's such a nice feeling.
Yep.
And then I realized that, hey, how about hugging other men, other brothers? Not only just hug them, but just play. Experience that tension and try to communicate if that tension hurts or if that tension feels good. Express it.
Yep. And
if it doesn't feel good, express it again.
Yep.
And discuss how we can solve it together,
Yep.
So yeah, I find this what do you call it? Physical movement is so important. This physical connection is so important.
Yeah.
So and this comes from my Silat training with my dad, because back then the first thing I had to do in the morning when as young as 7 years old is to go down to this plain big field near my house with my older brother and just do some Silat training. So we will do physical training like push-ups, sit-ups, and everything.
Yep.
And then we will start to do some drills, and he will ask us to spar with each other. And it was fun. We even like to do that without our dad. So we will have some sticks. And that time it was during Ninja Turtle was a hype.
Sure.
It was during the 90s, right?
Yeah.
So Ninja Turtle was a big thing, and you would want to be like one of them, like Donatello, Michelangelo.
Yeah.
So I will have my favorite was my Donatello.
The one with the stick, the big stick, the purple one, yeah.
So I'll get like a normal stick, and my older brother will get like a nunchucks.
Ooh,
he will make his own nunchucks from a wooden ruler.
Yep.
With a rubber band attached to two wooden rulers, and we would just fight, but without hurting each other, of course, yeah. But we lost it along the way. I think we lost it. I think because there's trauma that carries with it. Yeah. Okay. So what happened was my dad. He's just too aggressive in the way he conducts the training. Whenever there's mistakes, he will just I'll just put you in a scenario. So whenever there's mistakes, he will just slap me. It's not just a slap. I wouldn't call it a slap. The slap is a kind of slap that would just make you lie down flat on the floor.
So sucker punch you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And as a young kid, you don't know what's going on.
You don't know what happened.
Yeah, you probably just accept it, normalize it. You thought that's a normal thing, And to a certain degree, also he also teach you to pick a fight with someone in public, and he also picks fight with people in public.
How does one make sense of this, especially as a kid? Yeah,
exactly. He will go. We will go out with him and walking in the streets, and then he will just bang into a random stranger, and that's where the fight starts. And I will be so puzzled, and all these experiences and it creates the wound, it creates the hurt, and it's strongly connected to touch, and because of that, touch is so complex. It's so.
It is.
It's so. I would say scared. It's a scary thing. Yeah. So, but then I learned as I grew older. I spoke to him, find out more things why he was like that. And I understand, and I learned how to transmute this feeling. Into something bigger. That's how the brother circle comes about. Yeah, because I feel it's something very important. Because I feel like I liked it. I liked it as well. Yeah. So
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
It sounds like a really painful experience, but you were able to transmute as transmutations go, led into goal.
Yeah.
So why is holding space for people to share, why is it important? Because this idea of holding space, what do you mean by that? Is it just a physical space, or are there certain like emotional safeties that you mean when you say holding space? Yeah, what do you mean by that?
I think it's, first of all, it's about creating a safety net, a layer of safety net by earning trust with the particular participant. It can be one-on-one or it can be in a group setting. So for example, in a brother circle, how we create this safety net is to allow brothers to read out a set of guidelines that we set for this circle.
Yeah.
So the guidelines, for example, is one of them says be punctual, no judgments, stuff like that, just to create a neutral energy in the space. Forget about everything and just be present and see what you can offer. So that's the safety net that we created for the circle.
Yeah.
And that's how I see about creating a safe space. And also, so once this safe space has been created, the second layer is allowing participants to be comfortable in expressing themselves. So, and this can be tricky. So you can be. So I like to give nuances of physical or body language. I like to make sure that I'm not so stiff as a facilitator. I would just like sit very relaxed, and just like a older brother.
Do you think it conveys something intangible to the people who was like maybe sitting across you and receiving it?
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
And because I feel this goes back to my own personal experience when I was in a ceremony in Ecuador.
Okay.
I was in the indigenous ceremony in Ecuador, and the ceremony leader or the shaman made me really comfortable because he's so humorous. He's so humorous, and he doesn't think himself higher than all of us. He cooks for us. He even fixed the electricity. He embodies the act of service. And yeah, he's just a human basically. So I got inspired by that.
Yeah.
And I feel safe with that. And not only that, I experience healthy masculinity from him. Someone who's very comfortable with himself, and the people around him, and he's got something to offer.
Yep.
And he's confident with that. And I'm thinking, hey, I want to be like that. Yeah, I remember that feeling, that masculine, warm feeling, that I never get to experience it, and I thought, what, I don't want to keep this to myself. I want to share it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's how I create the safety net for the brothers.
How is the experience of the people participating, perhaps for the first time, and trying to learn these new techniques to converse or to think? Because I feel that sometimes men are too logic-brained for their own good.
So
yeah.
So how the circle works, I sort of like work with the energy flow of the space. The space can be in the body and out the body. So what I do is I invite men to be within, to go within themselves, to scan the body, and feel what they are feeling right now, right at the moment. And then, so for example, if you have a tightness in your chest, I want you to go deep and find out where does this come from. And then after this meditation process is done, I will give space for men to express or share what they are feeling.
Is it always easy for them to express?
I don't know. so far nobody ever expressed that they face difficulties.
That's good.
Yeah. So because I feel I thought I want to inspire men to be in their bodies, to feel what their body is feeling. Sometimes we don't feel, and we just act upon.
Or we ignore.
Yeah.
I think ignoring is a very common set of responses.
Yes.
It's like you're too logic brain for your own good. You're not thinking with the emotionality and the nuance, or even seeing yourself as a human. You're just thinking the logic, or this doesn't affect me. This doesn't affect me in the long term, so it's fine.
It's a very logical thinking, but it comes with a price. You know, when the heart is too closed for a long time, that's where the stress, depression, disconnectedness happens.
Like imagine it's uncomfortable and it's very foreign. Do you think it's very foreign for men to start thinking with, not say thinking, but start seeing things with like a different lens, and to start being, I guess, more attuned with their heart and their emotions? Do you think it's something that takes practice?
It could be both. It could be something, some men will take their time to cultivate this practice so that they get to really feel their hearts, you know, or emote their feelings. Some men find it easy. It really depends on their lifestyle, their cultural background, their environment, their practice. I personally feel the younger generations, the millennials and younger, find it easier because again, we have to go back to the information technology era that we are born into. Because we are exposed to more right and wrongs, you know, whereas the older generation finds it hard. But it will take, I guess we could learn from each other, you know. I
think like going off on what you said, like the idea of realizing that what you have experienced could actually be wrong. Like you can look up online, you can look at what people have typed before, what people have said, and you can compare it, as opposed to when you were growing up where you had no means of comparison. Like your world was your family and your parents, and maybe until you have grown up and you have met, let's say, other people and you talk to them, they're like, oh shit, this is not how a regular family is. Normal people don't pick fights with other people. It's like, what the fuck?
But it can be tricky though. Like
it is.
Sometimes, you know, at a young age when you're exposed to too much knowledge, and then the body is not ready for it.
Interesting.
And that's why a lot of young people are having anxieties. You know, because the hardware is not ready for the software, right? The advanced iOS, you know, you put it into a Nokia phone.
It will just explode.
Exactly. So that's a good indicator for us to slow things down and educate the young ones to, hey, you know, like go out there and learn from nature, or we learn from the elders or the families. You know, it's not all about TikTok or Instagram. You know, so there's some things I feel you can't grasp online. You have to have the human experience. You know.
Do you think it's important for men to reconcile the emotional bits that they have, to reconcile it so that it's more of a wholesome picture?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you get to do that, you will own your life story.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because most of us, I mean, again, based on my personal experience, I for the longest time, I always ignore my childhood trauma. I try to dismiss it, like just sweep it under the carpet and think that I'm okay.
For the right reasons, I would assume.
For the right reasons. I just don't want to. It's just too tiring, man. Like, it's just too tiring. It's too much work, you know, to dive deep, and I don't have time. You know, I still want to enjoy and experience life. But to a certain degree, my body tells the signals. You know, like the body is. I mean, again, I go back to the fact that I'm so in tune with my body. I always have this burning sensation on my tummy, that this anxiety kicks in, you know, and I realize this energy is given to me. That is not mine. It's given to me by someone else. You know? So if I don't do something about it, it will manifest as a sickness. And I need to do something about it. and
It's like, do what lah?
Yeah. So, and I just have to do my work, like, keep journaling and ask myself, where does this pain come from?
Yeah.
What does this pain remind me of? You know, and I remember whenever, my parents used to quarrel, I always have the same feeling. You know, as young as like 6 years old.
Yeah.
It seemed this constricted feeling on my tummy, and the beating up sensation, you know, in the bodies.
Yeah.
And I just have to find out about it, look at it as a third person perspective.
Like an observer,
Yeah. And after that, be back in my story and what's the next step? You know, so the next step is, of course, you know, like talk to my mom, talk to my dad.
To reconcile it.
Yeah, reconcile it. Get to know them as humans. You know, like if I should express my resentfulness to them, just I'll express it for just that short period of time, and then forgive them.
Yeah,
you know, and then go back to myself, and then how can I integrate this to my future self? You know.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to remember, like, as you are able to have, I guess, like a third party view on things, it's also very vital to actually come to the realization that it's not your fault. Yeah, because it happened to you. Yeah, and you were so young. What could you possibly do?
And now I'm looking at it as a blessing. Every suffering is a blessing. I remember this being told to me from a friend in Ecuador. She told me, every suffering is a blessing. And the minute you get to have that perspective, oh my God, everything is so easy. Everything just flows nicely, you know, like, I'm even grateful for what my dad did to me. Yeah. Yes, I was suffering, but hey, I'm okay now. Yeah. You know, I'm able-bodied, I'm stronger, I'm more resilient. I would say I'm not a spoiled child, you know, and I get to be courageous in trying new things, you know. Yeah. So I'm thankful for the experiences.
I think admittedly, having the idea of like to suffer is a blessing, it's a little bit bonkers, but I also think it's about it coming at the right place at the right time. I can imagine if someone is going through something like that right now, in the midst of it, saying something like that is unfortunately quite dismissive. But it's when you have the benefit of hindsight, when you are safe yourself and you're able to slowly unpack one by one, and you are able to have the perspective. It's really just at the right place at the right time that you're able to unpack things yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in closing, I have a couple more questions for you, and I'm curious to know, what do you think is the role of emotions? What do you think emotions play? Because if you think about the body and the body and the mind in a strictly biological sense, everything has its own place, its own purpose, its own functions. So what do you think emotions are? What role and what function do they play in day-to-day living?
That's an interesting question. I think to me, I feel emotions is a reaction to life. Is how you perceive what life gives you, this sensation in this 3-dimensional world, you know. So that's why there's a lot. You can lay out all different spectrums of it, you know, like colors, you know, and that's the beauty of it. And emotions is also an indicator that you are experiencing life. Yeah, that's how I look at it.
Do you think it's like the realest indicator one could have?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you know, how connected you are. Because if you become emotionless, there's something wrong, right? You know, you become a robot already. Yeah. And I feel to be emotional is not really a bad thing, you know. To now, as a man, I'm learning and I'm discovering this act of crying. You know, like it's okay to cry. It's okay to feel it to a point that you feel like you want to cry. And the cry doesn't come from sadness, it can come from joy and
exactly.
or sensitivity, or just empathetic listening, and it's okay, because I find it's so beautiful if one can do that,
You have a physical manifestation of something intangible.
Exactly, yeah. So it's last time it was so hard for me to do that, but now I feel like it's so liberating, as a man especially, to sort of like reverse that stigma of whom I thought what a man is supposed to feel like.
Yeah, because I think it's interesting that we can all have our own individual ideas of what being a man is, but unfortunately you would have to place yourself in society, and I guess society has their own definitions of what a man should be, and that is expressed through the culture, the common consensus culture that's expressed through pop culture, movies, and you get, I won't say indoctrinated, program is not a good word, but you get just saddled with all these different ideas of what being a man is, you have to be. I guess the common consensus, if one were to think of what a man is usually stoic and expressionless. So it's like, if someone were to cut your hand, you're not showing anything, which is why I led with the questions. What do you think the role is? Because I think men are emotional, to me. How I will perceive it, men are emotional, but the emotions that they are generally used to is anger. And that is the unfortunate part. Because even they won't probably, they might think they're sad, but it will oftentimes translate to anger. And it's the emotion that they are very, very used to, that they're very used to expressing, that they're very used to living in it.
I think it's, I feel, because I also guilty as charged, I tend to be like that. It's because my needs are not met. We don't know what first of all, I don't know what's the need. That's exactly. Because there's too many to a point that I always dismiss it and sweep it under the carpet. And I don't know what is it. And anger is always the shortcut, the expressway for it. So I think the best way to prevent that from happening is always straight away address your needs. Address what you want. Be transparent.
With yourself.
With myself, with myself. And then with others. Because most of the time, men are so scared to express what they want. Even with their friends, with their brothers, they're scared to say that, hey, I don't like this, or hey, can you help me with this? Because they don't want to trouble them. It's the influence of, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, I know, mass media, because the superhero characteristics where everything, you just do it alone, or you are out for revenge, you're out to be the bad guys, you're always doing things alone, and then because of that, you don't know how to ask for help, or
you don't even want to, even though you're struggling.
So I think if we don't know how to express our needs, we always it tends to burst out in aggression. Like, for example, if my wife is messing up the kitchen, for example, and if I think, you know what, it's okay, she'll I have to get used to it. But then if I don't address it there and there with kindness, I will accumulate, and it will turn out to be aggression. So that's how I look at it.
It's interesting about anger, because while you were sharing a story about unpacking these things from a third observer point of view, I can imagine anger and frustration being a very realistic outcome when someone feels like there's an infraction done upon them and they had no say, and there's this lack of this helplessness, that because you can't change the past, unfortunately, you can't change anything, and it's been done to you. And anger is a very, very realistic emotion. It's a very, very realistic outcome, and it kind of clouds whatever insights you might have, instead of feeling, it is actually a strength, and you're being very like, I guess, comforted and relieved. It has happened before, but I've become stronger. But in fact, if it's anger, you are enraged. That's why you tend to cut off ties, and you do a series of weird things just because you're inflamed by the infraction done to you when you were so helpless. And
to add on with that, it's also healthy to harness anger, to fiercely decide on things, or stood your ground on your righteousness that protects. I think I'm also learning how to sort of like putting the anger energy into something good, you know.
Like constructive.
Yeah, constructive. Yeah, yeah. Rather than benefiting just myself.
Yep.
You know. Yeah.
So to bridge off that tangent, do you think emotions are amoral? Because with certain emotions, we tend to unconsciously place like a moral judgment on it, or anger. If you see someone expressing anger outside, unfortunately, the brain is oftentimes quicker than the mind. It just puts, someone shouting, there is like angry person. So I'm curious to know, do you think emotions are amoral?
I don't, but amoral means like a negative thing.
Like there is no, it is very difficult to all anger is bad.
Right.
All sadness is bad.
I don't
all
think
happiness
so.
is good. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think again, we have to go back to the human experience. You know, it's about feeling the sensations of life. You know, it's normal. So we are so careful now. You know, we are so careful because of cameras and mothership or storm
or storm was really big.
Yeah, you know, we are so careful now to being seen with our vulnerable side, with our human side. To a certain degree, we want to be this polished, prim and proper human, and then there's a cost that comes with it. You know. Yeah, and the cause is stress, anxiety, depression. Yeah, and if we don't find time and space to let these things out, it's gonna be madness, you know. Yeah.
I watched a video recently about this guy explaining that the body keeps score, and I think it's a very poignant point. Like the body has a tally unconsciously of the things that you go through, and it keeps score. And this is where the different manifestations come out. It's very interesting. I'll send you a link afterwards.
Okay.
It is this guy talking about therapy and just saying, going through his research about it and explaining to other people that all these things. And it's a very intangible concept to even wrap your head around, that the body remembers basically.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
I could agree to that.
Yeah.
Because I feel every sensations my body feels, it stores some memory. You know, as I said, the
pit in the middle, right?
Yeah. So the feelings that I feel in my tummy when way back before I did my inner work, I realize it's a memory. It creates memory of my past as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could agree with that.
I would imagine having this framework of thinking of your body kind of makes you look at yourself differently as well. It goes beyond just, the physical look. I want to be this buff. I have the fucking 12-pack. You start to appreciate, be grateful, and you start to identify different parts of your body that you might not have even been very hyper aware of in the first place, because it triggers certain things in your psyche.
Yeah. And which is why I love to geek upon the human body, the human biomechanics, because the posture and the way they move, especially when it comes to walking, really tells a story. When I train my clients, every time I watch how the rib cage moves, you know, it tells a story. I get to see the amount of time he's been driving, you know, the amount of time he's been sitting down and drinking coffee, the amount of time he's just wandering, doing nothing, you know. I and where does that come from? You know, it comes from loneliness or stuff like that.
You just pick these things up.
So the human body is such a beautiful thing. I feel.
I have to agree. I have two more questions for you.
Sure.
I'm curious to know, what have you been struggling with recently?
Struggling right now? No. Yeah, it's to get more, to be honest, it's to get more men to be aware of my work. Yeah, that's something that I wouldn't say struggling. I think it's it can be a struggle as well. It's to just bring more light into their awareness. Is
there like a dismissal of it, or is it just a point of boosting the signal so that more people are aware of it?
I think it's based on interest, and also perspectives, like where they are in their lives right now, that they need this. You know, so and we are talking about in a society, like in a society level. You know, how what's driving them and towards a certain kind of interest.
Yeah.
You know, so as of now, healing and transformation is still new, especially being harnessing the conscious masculine in a male body is a tricky thing. It's still a tricky thing in Singapore because when it comes to Singaporeans, we can think of as a rite of passage is national service, right? And that's like the immediate thing when it comes to being a man.
Yeah, it's like almost ritualistic.
Yeah. But we forgot there are other things as well. So I think to add on as well, my struggle is also to make this brother circle, this approach, neutral to every man, regardless where they come from, their traditions, cultures.
And I would imagine that is really important.
Yeah. Because different cultures cultivates different masculinity. Yeah. So if we can be neutral and be a man to anyone, instead of just ethnocentric, but world-centric, I think that would be really cool.
It's almost universal, universal qualities, I guess, what a healthy masculine will look like.
Yeah.
I
So,
think my last...
to add on, which is why I for some reason, the irony that I'm doing, because I share Silat practices to the brothers in the circle, which is my ethnic practice. But at the same time, I sort of like expand this ethnicity to world-centric.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it now. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I think my last question for you, and I think it ties the whole conversation up nicely. I'm curious to know, where does the word purpose and meaning, where does it lay in your mind? Where does it lay in your day-to-day life? And what do these two words mean to you? I ask because the idea of finding your purpose, the idea of finding meaning in your life, it's almost played as a joke sometimes. So I'm curious to know, because you started the conversation about being very firm.
Yeah.
I believe the first sentence in your conversation in this entire podcast is you being very clear. It seems to me as though you're being very clear about what you want to do, being very discerning about. It's almost like a mandate that you're sharing through this body of yours. So I'm curious to know, where does the word purpose and meaning lay in your lexicon of your day-to-day living? Is it always at the back of your mind? Is this something you always check back to? Has it always been like this? Yeah.
I'm still human.
Glad to know. Good to know.
Yeah. I have my downfalls. I sometimes go back to my Prima Deli waffles. I will stray away sometime, consciously or unconsciously. Sometimes I just want to relax and have fun. My wife reminds me of that. She's a good. That's why we are still,
It sounds like a good.
together.
This sounds like a great relationship.
Yeah, because I tend to take life too seriously sometimes.
As most men do.
Yeah, like this wizard. What do you call that mindset that just want to find out information about life and world, and
It's a lot. I would imagine it's a lot nicer in there.
yeah. So it gets off. It tends to get off tangent once in a while, but how do I explain this? I think it begins during my awakening process in my life when I started becoming vegetarian, being exposed to different cultures and religions, practicing other spiritual practices like yoga, meditation.
Yep.
I realized that there's more to life, and then because of that, I quickly decide what kind of man I want to be.
So it was a conscious decision.
Yeah. I quickly decide what kind of man I want to be for the rest of my life. Because after accumulating all these experiences for the first 30 years of your life, okay, what's next? I can't just go to festivals all the time, right? And I need to learn how to integrate back I need to learn how to give back.
Yeah.
It's almost like a rite of passage, you go to you travel out, you go to Burning Man, and then you see heaven, or you experience joy, and then you come back to your community, you come back to your village, you come back to your family, you integrate back to them, you share that light to them. That's how
That's how it used to be.
Yeah. Yeah, it's how it used to be. And that's how I feel it keeps me with my purpose. And it keeps the nice flow.
Yeah.
And then if I feel that my cup is empty, I take on courses, I take on new skills, just to fill up the cup again so that I can be at service to people. And if it's too tiring, I go for a holiday. So it's really about being in tune with life. And not being scared of really meeting what life or what your body needs at this particular moment.
It sounds as though like you're defining what life actually means to yourself, be it your own rituals, your own practices. Everything is what it means to you. And you're doing it. Beautiful. Before we end, is there anything else you would like to talk about?
What about you?
What about me?
What about your purpose and meaning? Like how do you perceive it?
I will conflate the two together, and I think what I realize is that I just really enjoy creating. Creating in the general sense of the word. I coming from a background with regards to illustration, which is a very how would I say? There are certain tenets to what illustration is. So illustration is a visual and it's usually 2D. So this is our practice in the studio. We do a lot of 2D visuals. But I think I realized at a certain point along the way that it didn't really fit. I didn't really like it. I like the idea of creating a lot better because I think it's a lot more agnostic. It is not just, I'm doing an illustration, but I just enjoy the energy that creating kind of brings. It's kind of like putting different seeds and seeing what grows. It's also important. I always have this idea of how seeds, they have the potential to grow into something great or they have the potential to just die out. And I think it's important to have this balance of extreme hopefulness when it comes to certain projects, when it comes to creating certain new ideas. You always have to have that innocence to believe in it. Because if nobody else does, then who will believe in it? But it's also important on one other facet to have that protectiveness of the idea, because when you put it out there, especially you're sharing among a group, it's very easy for people to have that snap criticism because it's fair because you're putting it out. So you kind of have to have the means to nurture it, the means to protect it, and the means to father it. So it's just this idea of creation that I find resonates with me a lot more now. With regards to like a purpose and meaning.
Okay. So it doesn't have to be a certain particular genre of art.
It doesn't have to be. I think I like it to be agnostic. And I think personally, I view that there are little bits of creation in the things that we do, whether it be little habits, little routines, but these are so minimal that we do not, it's not glorious. I mean, if you go down, grab a coffee, that is a ritual, but it's not glorious. It's not, and especially in this day and age where everything feels not just pristine. I think we're beyond the level of pristine, and we've kind of, what's the word for it? It's really in our system to be pristine, but now everything has to be glorious. And
oh my God,
I disagree with that. I think there are special intricacies with each person that may never be expressed. No one, it's just to them how you brush your teeth, how you wake up, what feet you step out with. I think those are very, very cool.
Okay. Well, it seems like you are very meticulous,
I would hope to be that. Maybe if I do become vegan, I'll gain superpowers. Hopefully.
Okay, good.
Okay. Before we end, where can people find you?
People can find me fortunately for social media, Facebook, Instagram. Facebook, just type out Hafeez Hassan. Hafeez with the spelling of Hafeez, Hassan. And they can find me on Instagram. My handle is at Hafeez, Hassn. So the last vowel is left out. And if you want to look for Brother Circle, you can look out for my Instagram as well. There's a link.
And if people are interested in attending the Brother Circle, do they just DM you? Do they write in?
They can go to the Altered States website.
Yeah.
So the Altered States is an alternative holistic healing meditation studio. There's a lot of different kinds of classes, really interesting. You can check it out, alteredstates.com.sg, and you can check out the Brother Circle class. It happens once a month. And this one happens this Saturday, but then again, it doesn't apply.
People will look forward to it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Hafeez. Thank you for your time, and thank you for the beautiful conversation.
Thank you,
Kevin.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed the episode and feel inspired. If you enjoyed what you heard thus far, do give us a follow on Instagram. And don't forget to share and subscribe. Stay tuned for the next episode.